We're continuing our journey through the decades of 20th century cinema. In the 1950s, film production nearly tripled, blending past movements and styles into something new. American musicals reached their peak, and sci-fi films about space and aliens became cultural icons. Cinema flourished in all its diversity. Here are 15 films that defined the decade. An American noir classic directed by John Huston, but more of a crime-adventure film than a detective story. One of the first films in the heist genre, the movie follows the story of a genius who creates the perfect robbery plan, only for everything as usual to go wrong. The Asphalt Jungle had a significant influence on all subsequent crime films about heists, both Hollywood and European, from The Killing to Ocean's 11. It also left its mark on early Tarantino works, including Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. Marilyn Monroe had one of her first roles here, and although she appeared in a small part, she was later featured on all the covers of The Asphalt Jungle. One of the greatest films in American cinema history, this Billy Wilder masterpiece is considered the pinnacle of his career and the best film about the illusions and betrayals of Hollywood. Gloria Swanson delivers a stunning performance, and the film is packed with illusions and references. Sunset Boulevard is best known for its iconic opening scene, which has become legendary. The story begins with a shot of a corpse floating in a pool, narrated by the dead man himself, recounting the events leading to his demise. This Akira Kurosawa masterpiece brought Japanese cinema to the world stage. Set in the 11th century, the film revolves around a trial where witnesses give conflicting testimonies about a samurai's murder and the assault on his wife. For the first time in cinema history, the story is told from multiple perspectives, with each character presenting their own version of events. This groundbreaking narrative structure made Rashomon a classic, not just of Kurosawa's career or Japanese cinema, but of world cinema as a whole. The technique was quickly adopted and reimagined by filmmakers for generations to come. Most viewers know the Keanu Reeves remake, a bad remake, but Robert Wise's original is an undeniable masterpiece of science fiction cinema, profoundly influencing all future films about space and alien civilizations. A deep, philosophical allegory and a stark warning to humanity, the film reflects on a world that has endured two devastating wars, yet continues its path of aggression, refusing to learn from history. The protagonist, an extraterrestrial from a more advanced civilization, arrives on Earth to give humanity one final chance to change and embrace peace. If not, higher cosmic beings will eradicate our species like a cancer threatening the universe. One of the most iconic classic Hollywood musicals inspired by Broadway productions. Set in the late 1920s, the film captures the transition from silent films to talkies. Alongside a budding romance between a movie star and a dancer, the story focuses on the challenges of this cinematic revolution. Gene Kelly's character is a precursor to the artist, played by Jean Dujardin decades later, but Singin' in the Rain remains the definitive tribute to the era. Praised for its songs and above all its choreography, the film's dance sequences were so demanding that actors pushed themselves to the point of bursting blood vessels in their legs. Fred Zinnemann's classic Western, starring Gary Cooper, won 4 Oscars but lost Best Picture to The Greatest Show on Earth. Set in the sweltering heat of July in New Mexico, the story unfolds in real time. A small-town sheriff is ready to retire and leave with his new bride. But on his wedding day, a notorious outlaw returns with his gang. Though his wife begs him to flee, duty and honor compel him to stay and fight. He pins his badge back on and asks the townspeople for help, only to be met with silence. High Noon was widely seen as an allegory for McCarthyism, reflecting the fear-driven political climate where those accused of anti-American beliefs were persecuted while others remained silent. Western icon John Wayne, a staunch Republican and McCarthy supporter, famously denounced the film as the most un-American movie in Hollywood history. In the early 1950s, a British fashion model with an angelic face, Audrey Hepburn, took Hollywood by storm. She turned out to be a perfect fit for romantic comedies, and her very first leading role in William Wyler's Roman Holiday, opposite the legendary Gregory Peck, earned her an Oscar. The film received 10 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, a rare honor for a light-hearted rom-com. It won 3 for Best Actress, Best Costume Design, and Best Screenplay. The charming story of a European princess exploring the Eternal City and falling for an American reporter captured audiences' hearts for generations. Hepburn became an instant icon and a new kind of Hollywood sex symbol. Inspired by American films and echoing the horrors of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings, Japan's Godzilla tells the story of a massive prehistoric creature that awakens from the depths of the Pacific Ocean and destroys Tokyo. This film gave birth to a new subgenre in Japanese cinema, one centered around special effects and giant monsters. Godzilla became an enormous box office hit, leading to a long series of sequels and crossovers, where the giant lizard battled everything from giant pterosaurs to a monstrous butterfly to an enormous shrimp, all of which made appearances in the 2019 Hollywood blockbuster Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Another masterpiece from the great Akira Kurosawa. The story revolves around the villagers, poor farmers who are repeatedly forced to give up their harvest to bandits. If they refuse, the bandits will kill everyone. If they comply, they will starve. In a desperate situation, the farmers turn to 7 samurai, or rather 7 ronin, samurai who have lost their masters and become masterless and wandering, who agree to help them fight back. In 7 Samurai, Kurosawa introduced the concept of the noble samurai sword, contrasting with the vile, dishonorable firearms, a motif he later explored in his other films. Kurosawa's heroes fight only with swords, while the bandits use guns, which were introduced from the West. This storyline was later adapted into Western cinema, famously influencing the Hollywood classic The Magnificent Seven. The entire action of this dialogue-driven story unfolds within the austere walls of a room, where 12 jurors must decide the guilt or innocence of a boy accused of murdering his father. 11 jurors are ready to sign the guilty verdict and send the young man to his death. But the 12th juror begins to sow reasonable doubt among the others, and the characters become immersed in a long, grueling debate. The film won the Golden Bear at the Berlin Film Festival, but shockingly, it did not receive a single Academy Award, despite being nominated in 3 major categories: Best Film, Director, and Adapted Screenplay. Incredibly, Henry Fonda, whose performance as the lead was absolutely mesmerizing, deeply layered, and profoundly humanitarian, was not even nominated for an Oscar. Directed by the legendary British filmmaker David Lean and starring British actor Alec Guinness, the film tells the story of British and American prisoners of war in a Japanese camp, forced to build a bridge over a river in the Burmese jungle under the orders of a Japanese colonel. The film won 7 Academy Awards, including in all major categories. In the absurdity of building the bridge, which becomes an obsession for the British lieutenant colonel, there was an obvious reflection of the absurdity of war itself, where obsession with an idea always takes precedence over common sense, claiming millions of lives in the process. In this psychological and dizzyingly complex thriller, Hitchcock broke all the rules, setting aside the conventions of classic film noir while still keeping the classic characters, the brooding detective and the femme fatale. The master of suspense turned to surrealism for the first time, crafting a story where the literal twists of the plot seem barely believable and more closely resemble the laws and logic of dreams. They feel real and rational while you're asleep, but nonsensical and absurd as soon as you wake up. There's no typical thriller dynamics here, no murder investigation as you'd expect in a detective story, and no punishment for the criminal, which is obligatory in classic noir. The twist is revealed a third of the way through, and there are no closing credits at all. The story, in which the characters choose the illusion of reality and suffer as a result, invites a variety of interpretations. Some believe that Hitchcock's Vertigo is a meditation on the obsession with cinema itself, which essentially offers to replace reality with a more vivid, more colorful fantasy. Another Hitchcock film, this time a cult spy thriller where Cary Grant plays an advertising executive mistakenly mistaken for a secret agent, a story that became a precursor to the James Bond franchise, which began in 1962. Grant, however, was never offered the role of 007, likely because he was American and Bond was British. Hitchcock blended the spy thriller with adventure comedy, which was a fresh approach at the time. The iconic scene in the cornfield was shot in such a way that the crop-dusting plane becomes an embodiment of ominous fate. In the late 1950s, the French New Wave burst onto the film scene. Its founder, François Truffaut, a film critic who decided to make films instead of just criticizing them, released his directorial debut, The 400 Blows. The story of a troubled teenager is partly based on Truffaut's own adolescence, his memories of wanting to act in defiance of adults and their instructions. The stricter the moral lessons, the stronger the urge to rebel. Truffaut's technical innovation lay in the camera's movement. No longer static, it soared up, down, and even twisted in unexpected ways. The final shot was equally revolutionary, with the protagonist staring directly into the lens, locking eyes with the audience. No one had done that before Truffaut. The popularity of the peplum genre sharply declined after the release of Cleopatra in 1963. However, before that, Ben-Hur by William Wyler, starring Charlton Heston as a Jewish man sentenced to the Roman galleys by former friends, later seeking revenge and witnessing the crucifixion of Christ and the miracle of the Lord, became an Oscar record setter, winning 11 statuettes out of 12 nominations. Ridley Scott's Gladiator, released in 2000, used the same theme of betrayal and revenge from an exiled man returning to seek justice, reviving the grandeur of the peplum genre and reigniting the audience's love for it, though only for a brief moment. Exodus Gods and Kings, also by Scott, failed to recreate that renaissance.